forgiveness, I think.
Yeah,
uh, you know,
yeah.
I believe that I'm just gonna start right into it. It's my favorite subject because as a transformational coach, there's one of the things that I personally had a lot of, you know, I'm not gonna say problem with. It was really challenging to me, and it still is,
Right,
and I
right.
believe it's a constant work, and you have to be willing to transform. You have to be willing to work, and there's something ongoing work. So, yeah, let's start.
Right. So my question to you, obviously you've already stated the reason why you chose that topic, because I was going to ask you what is truly important to you about this topic. Out of all the topics you could choose, why this one? What
But
does that mean to you?
I think, I think it all starts, I think happiness starts with forgiveness, because the moment we understand why are we forgiving, and what are we forgiving, and what is forgiveness, we just take a very, very big step towards our happiness. And I used to mistakenly think that I'm forgiving someone else, but it really changed when my outlook to forgiveness changed, because now I believe we don't forgive for the other person, we forgive for ourselves. For
Right.
me, I started my journey with forgiving myself for everything I did to me, because, for example, loving one specific person was never loving to me. I was hurting myself without knowing. So in the beginning of
Right.
my journey, I started forgiving myself for everything. And then I started forgiving everyone else for everything else too. But with one particular person, I really had problem forgiving, till my mentor, Mary, actually opened this one up. And I'm
Right.
building a program based on this, like, why are we forgiving, and what is forgiveness for?
Okay. Okay. So basically, you had like a personal experience with that stuff,
Oh, yeah.
with being forgiven. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think most of us have, in our age. So a lot of people have experience with forgiveness. Um, but for me, I have from a coaching point of view, I have a different perspective when it comes to forgiveness. You know, my perspective when it comes to forgiveness, I look at forgiveness as a bunch of different negative emotions. Okay, and we're not gonna focus too much on a lot of emotions because we could be there forever. But I want to focus on the top five when it comes to forgiveness. But there may be more than that, correct?
Yeah.
So the first top five emotion I want to focus on, because forgiveness by itself cannot stand. As a whole, forgiveness has many layers to it, right?
Yeah.
So let's look at first thing: anger, hurt,
Exactly.
and jealousy, and we're gonna look at shame and guilt, right? Now, whether it is you that in a position that you have experienced shame of guilt or guilt because of something you did in your past or to someone that causes you to feel that. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or whether it is someone else that you did something to or something happened in your past that create anger or hurt or jealousy that causes you to feel that. So in other words, for anybody to deal with forgiveness, you got to be able to deal with these negative emotions first. Because if you can't let these emotions go, it's impossible humanly to forgive anybody. Because when you go in your past, if every time you go back in the past, right, and the only thing that you experience when you go back to that event, whatever that happened to you, you're experiencing hurt or guilt or anger, jealousy, or shameless, it's I look at it as someone who's holding himself in in a prison cell as a
Hostage,
hostage.
exactly. Hostage, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So you hold yourself in a prison cell, and sometimes you have the capability to hold yourself hostage for a long time, forever. Because like I said, forgiveness itself cannot hold.
By itself.
But within, yeah. So in order for anybody to forgive anything, you got to be able to go back into the event, whatever it is that happened, and you release these negative emotions. Like I said, whether it is you that's trying to forgive yourself from within,
Yeah.
right? And every time you look at yourself, you feel shame or guilt. It's impossible to forgive yourself
Yeah.
if you don't deal with those emotions first. Now, there are plenty of emotions that could create forgiveness. You know what I mean? So, like I said, well, I'm just focusing on just top five randomly. You know, but that's my perspective when it comes to forgiveness because it's the emotions that drives us into because you may in your head if you think you've forgiven someone, right, and you don't deal with the anger, with the
Exactly.
hurt, with the emotions, then you really haven't forget that person.
Exactly.
I don't care what anybody says. That's very hard to grab to. You got to be congruent with these emotions, with these feelings.
Yeah.
You know, and so when you go back, you take the experience, the learning. So if something like that were to happen again, so you just take the learnings, you know how to handle it.
Exactly.
But see, you understand what I'm saying? That's my perspective
No, you're
when it
you're
comes.
you're totally right. That's what I always think talk with my clients. You have it's step by step, and you're right. Forgiveness by itself, it just doesn't mean anything. The emotions that you say, I think as humans we should uh, broaden our vocabulary of emotion. Like for example, we say anger, then what is actually anger? So if you sit, I believe that you have to sit with every single emotion that you have on the subject.
Yeah,
You have to sit on it. You have to meditate on it, and you have to go deeper and let yourself feel. Because as you say, you cannot if you don't resolve those emotions, if you don't know where that anger comes from. For example, in my case, I was so angry and I didn't know what was this anger coming from, right? And and the more I sat with my anger and the more layers deeper that I went to my anger, at the end of all the emotions that I went through, I found out I'm just love deprived. I was so love deprived that anger came from that. And I didn't know, like 6 months ago, when I was that angry, I didn't know that anger was the cause of that anger was me being love deprived, right? So
right.
that's why I started to broaden my vocabulary of every single emotion, both the
Right.
higher ones and lower ones.
Okay, I think we got a question here. I don't know if you'd like to answer it, but I agree with you. Totally agree with what you said. And oftentimes people think of forgiveness as by itself, but as a whole, you got to look at it. Now, there's plenty emotions. Like I said, for me, as you can see on my posts, I focus on a lot of emotions. Emotion is because. Um, your mind is two things. I look at the mind as the body of a vehicle,
Exactly.
and the emotions. I look at the emotion as the steering wheel, and your feet are on the pedal. So if you don't have control of your emotions, so oftentimes you don't. No matter where your destination is, you'll never be able to get there.
Exactly.
So, and a lot of people think they know how to control your emotions, and your emotions, is everything. Really, it controls the mind. It
It's
controls
your
everything.
guiding system. It's your guiding
Yeah,
system.
yeah. So you really have to understand how to control it because a lot of time if you don't know how to control it, someone else is controlling you. It's just not you, but you assume you are in control of it. You understand? So, and this is why most people take years to when it comes to forgiveness, to forgive someone, even if they do. But if you, let's say years later, right, and you assume you forgive that person, but whenever you go back to that event, to that details, you feel that pain, then you haven't completely forget that person.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's
You still have to do these emotions.
exactly. I think what one thing that I try to do, not with my clients, is that I try to go to, because I'm not a directive coach, I'm more like a provocative coach. I ask questions because I know they know the real reason, right? But one thing
Right.
I ask them to do is to separate the event out of that person, because usually as humans we are so emotional that we because why am I hurt? Most of the time we are hurt because somebody has done something that we didn't want them to do, right?
Exactly.
Yes, most of the time, even if that person have betrayed you, even if that person, whatever that person has done to you, most of the time the case is that they have done something that we are not expecting. So if we try to separate the event from the person and we deal with these two separately, then we're taking one step closer to the place that we can actually forgive. And again, I think forgiveness cannot be done overnight. It will take, in some cases it takes years and years and years and work. So that's my view on it. But one other thing that I'm working on, since I believe that you and we work with the brain and neurology, you can actually hack your subconscious. So I'm working on different forgiveness meditation. So I read somewhere in this, it was a book that I was reading. It was really good. He was talking about, the writer was talking about that you can actually pick 4 judges in your subconscious, 4 people that you believe. It can be your dog, it can be, I don't know, Tony Robbins, or an angel, or your grandmother, a spirit of your grandmother.
Right.
You actually create like a judging place in your mind, and you sit on it and
Right.
you meditate on it, and it's really fascinating how it works. I've been trying to do that myself, and every time it's like a layer, it's like a layer of onion. Every time you just like peel the layers and stuff comes up. So there are like different events. Yeah. Let me see, Mitra, can you elaborate a little bit more about this self-sabotaging mechanism that you asked? It's about, like, do you get the question?
Oh, what was the question? What if you don't know what category it falls under, but you know that is a self-sabotage? Well, listen, feelings. Let's go back to emotions, okay? Emotions are very important, okay? So the best way to answer this question for you, let me ask you questions, right? So let's just say that you feel depressed, right? Now, emotion by itself create a physiology. Physiology is your body language, right? So think about when you feel depressed. How does your physiology looks like? Your shoulder drops, your head is down, you feel like everything is off, off for you, right? And versus if you can remember a time when you were very totally excited or feeling powerful, your physiology also changes. Your shoulders up, your head straight, but the difference between those two, one of them can create result, the other one cannot. So you do know what that feels like if it's you from within. It could be because you have, a lot of times people don't know how to describe emotions. It could be, there's plenty out there, whether it's shameless, like I said before. If you feel you can't forgive yourself from within, it's because something you're dealing from inside, whether it has to do with shame or guilt or something that you think that you should have done, or someone, you did to someone, and it's eating you up, and part of you is like, is like, it's saying it's okay, and then part of you is saying that, no, that's not okay, kind of stuff. So your emotions is very, very important to understand how to change from state to state, regardless what it is that you're feeling. you know. And for me, I have a technique what I teach my clients and myself. How do I go from one state to another state? In other words, emotions, right? And you know, there's a saying that says, wherever you focus, that's where that's where your energy goes.
Zeros.
So you really have to understand, you know, what you're feeling inside, you know, and you know, if you could just describe or type in chat, describe that feelings exactly what that feel like, you know, that'd be a good something good to do, so we can help you more.
Yeah, yeah, you're totally right. I believe that as we all should, not just as coaches, we all should broaden our vocabulary of emotion. Like you say, like, I'm angry. Why are you angry? I'm very, very angry. I'm like so angry. Like, okay, so angry is like, why? Are you hurt? You're angry. You know, are you irritated? You're angry. Because when we know, if you don't know what's going on with yourself, you cannot describe it to others. And how can you expect others to understand you when you don't understand yourself, right?
Exactly, exactly, and I completely agree. You know, you really have to. There's no point. You know, for me, when I work with clients, I don't. I stop them from. I put the brakes on right away. The minute you start telling me things that's not okay, I put the brakes on right away. Because the more I'm not a therapy I'm not here to listen to your problem. I've got enough of mine. So what I try to shift you. Yeah, well, it's a technique that works because I haven't. I gotta move you away from that and tell me what else that's happened that were good. And because you can't, it's impossible to have a entire week without having one single thing that happened to you that felt good. But you just choose to focus on the negatives. And like I said, when you focus on negatives, you can't produce result that way. It's impossible to
Exactly.
focus on that. Just like, you know, when you, like I said, when you feel depressed or angry, watch your physiology. Watch it. Just pay attention. You know, I don't know. Can you remember the first time when you step on stage? The first time, how did that feel? You right?
Amazing.
Tell us how did that feel.
Amazing.
Now see, look at your physiology. Everything changes.
I know. That's exactly
See?
the funny thing is, you know, I totally agree with you. That's what I do. I like, even like these days, like since the whole pandemic happened, like people always ask
Right,
me how you doing, and I said like I feel great. You know, I am amazing because I guard my mind 24/7. And if there is
right,
one time, one moment, if I take my focus on guarding my mind, I actually
right.
that's the first thing I think about. The moment I'm on stage, you know, and everything changes, you know, no matter what. I just imagine,
Exactly.
not the first time, the moment that, you know, that's the thing. And the thing that you say, it's totally true.
Yeah.
But back to forgiveness, I think if we separate the person out of the event and we look at the event separately and then look what we've learned from the event, you know, what that event had taught us, it will make the process
Right.
easier. What do you think?
Right. Well, the reason I asked you that, I wanted you to see the difference between physiology and the state. So I asked that
Exactly.
question. You could see right away. So now the next question I want to ask you, and I want the viewer to watch this. Now, remember, you mentioned something about your breakup, right? You had trouble. Now, can you remember how that feel when if you go back to that time when you first experienced that? What was that feeling? You know, with that, you know, someone broke your heart, whatever. How did that feel?
You know, to be honest, it's exactly a year. Like, I think in 3 days it's going to be a year. And one of the things that
Right.
I've done, one of the things that I've tried to do, and I thought like I'm like completely maybe healed, but one of the things that I've tried to do, I've tried to detach myself from that person, and I'm not that person anymore. But you're right. The moment, and I've learned, and I taught myself from the moment it happened, I told myself one step at a time. And the moment I wanted to think about what happened, I would stop myself and I would think about
Right.
that moment on stage. This is a technique that I learned, you know, I taught myself doing. The moment I would think every day in the early days, it would happen maybe 100 times a day, right? Now it will not even happen once, but sometimes once a week it happens, and I stop myself, stop it, and then I
Right.
change it. But you're right. The moment I let go, and the moment I don't feel the pain, to be honest with you. A lot of things happens to me, and I don't feel the pain. The pain is there with me. I can see it,
Right.
but I'm totally detached from the pain. But
That all, and that's all that matters. That's what I'm saying. This is the only way you can forgive is
exactly,
by detaching yourself from the emotion, where
exactly,
you can actually go back and then, like you're talking about it right now, it doesn't even. I don't see no hurt, no pain. You can actually talk about it with no problem. Then that's when you know you are congruent with the emotions. You know, because like I said, that question I asked you, you know, if you remember the first time when you first step on stage, if you could remember your breathing at that time, could you remember your breathing? And that's a big one, a
I
big one.
know, I
So
know.
right, so it's the same thing. You depressed, right? Check your breathing. Your breathing is down. It's like you're down. Your head is down. Your neck is down. So what I'm saying to you is your emotion is the steering wheel and the foot pedal where your feet is at moving this vehicle. You cannot get from point A to point Z, whatever destination or whatever goal you have, you cannot. It's impossible, humanly impossible, for you to get to your destination not able to control that vehicle. Because if you don't, I'm telling you, someone else is doing it for you. It's just
Exactly.
not you. Your mind is just the body, it's just the vehicle, but the emotion is what drives everything. Look, I just did two tests with you. You can see how you shift like completely. You see the happiness, you see the smile, your
Exactly.
breathing, everything go up. So that's the point I'm making. Is just your. It's so to go back to forgiveness. It's impossible to forgive someone unless you are able to deal with these feelings congruently. You say, you know what, I'm but if you're not ready, then you're not. Then you just need to do a lot more work. You know, you gotta let that go.
Yeah,
It's impossible.
exactly.
You know,
And I said, you know, again, it's been a year, but for I think for 6 months, I had no human contact with anyone for 4 months, 5 months and a half actually. For 135 days, I sat by myself, and I went, and I'm
so
not joking. No computer, no phone, nothing. I think I just ended up in hospital because I got ulcer. But other than that, it was just me. And I was so determined, I was so committed that I'm going to fix myself. I'm going to heal myself. I'm going to change, and I'm going to guard my mind 24/7. And I think that was, and when I look back now, it's a good thing. All the things that happened, I look at it as a good thing because of the human that I am today. And I actually find that, and it was never about that person. I was never fighting another person. I was fighting myself. That's why I go
right,
back to forgiveness. In that case, was for me. You know, I keep
right,
forgiving myself for being so unloving and so unkind to me. But as
right,
you
right.
say, I sat with every single emotion. I went through every single stage of grief daily.
It's good. It's good. No, you can actually see it. You know, it's you can actually you dealt with it in a very remarkable way that you don't. You know, you can hear it from your voice, from your physiology that it's completely gone. You can, that you dealt with it. So, but it's very difficult for a lot of us to do that because we're not in control, of your emotions. And for me, I'm very, very big. Even me as a coach, sometimes I need another coach to snap me back into my
Exactly.
place because it's very difficult because when you have so much responsibility, you have a business, you have this, and shit is coming at you every day, and you're like, okay, well, how do you do this? How do you do that? It's like emotions. I look at emotion as a whole bunch of tools, small ones, big ones, little ones, medium ones, all kind of size, right? And then you have to keep digging and say, okay, which one do I need to keep this vehicle going? Because if you not, if you don't know how to use these tools, you might as well just give up. I'm telling you, it's gonna drag you down, you know, in a hole. So it's very important to understand how to use, you know.
I just try both as a coach and as a human. I told you this morning, I just try to live or like live as close as I preach as possible. So I not just coach other people, I coach myself. Like again, in the beginning of pandemic, I was so like 2 days, I was so sad that I have to work at home, right? And then I stepped myself into it. This is what you do. This is how you coach people. So coach yourself into it. So I'm
Right.
always coaching either myself or someone else.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Just good. I don't know if there's any more questions, anybody asking questions, but yeah, is there anything else you want to share with your experience on forgiving?
I just think I believe I'm forgiving. I believe it's like everything else. You need to be committed to change, and transformation is not something that you just do one day and it's done. It's done daily. It's like self-love. Everything else, you have to do it daily. Daily. The whole
Well,
process of forgiveness, the whole process of loving, the whole process of transforming. It has to just be daily. That's my view on the whole subject.
it's, yeah, you got to constantly working on these emotions and working on yourself. I agree. And then you said something very important that you have to be willing and to do this. You
Yeah.
know, so if you say one thing and then if you're not willing, committed, that's the word you use, committed. And to do this for yourself, then don't bother because it's very important. Commitment is important.
Yeah.
It's like I look at emotions more. You know how we exercise our body to stay fit, but that up there, if you don't exercise it as well, so that's why sometimes I tell people, first thing you do before you exercise, you can meditate. That's a quick mentally exercise for your mind, and because if you can't help yourself throughout the day, you can't help anybody. To get you back in focus, to put you in a positive state every day, and for me, what I like to do, one of my favorite states I like to go to is powerful. You know how Superman stand,
Yeah, exactly.
straight up. Yeah, so it gives me that power.
Power
So
pose.
whatever comes, yeah, exactly. And like I said, posture makes plays a major role into your emotions. So your emotion control your posture. In other words, so if you're feeling like shit, excuse my language, then it's gonna show fast as well in your
Exactly.
breathing and everything you got, right? So for me to make sure my posture is good, I gotta think as a Superman or Batman or
I
somebody who's
I do Batman.
stronger. Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah. So because I want my posture, to stay connected, to connect with the emotion that I'm feeling for the moment. Because like I said, what if you pay attention, for those of you guys who's in the chat room, just think about it. Just try it out. You know what I mean? And just think of a time when you were sad or when you were depressed or when you were upset, and especially when somebody's angry, right? Look at your physiology, how it is. Your face looks so pissed. Your heart rate, your breathing is just speeding. Now think of it when you are happy and a happy woman, and look at your face and look at your breathing, your physiology, everything, your tone of voice, your how your chest look, your shoulder, everything else. So if you start paying attention to these two, then you understand the reason I'm saying this because you cannot create anything, any result, anything you want to create moving towards the future on a negative state like this.
Right.
It's like going to a job application, right? And yet your confidence is so low, and then you come in, you fill this job, and the person's interviewing is like, oh, I don't know, man. You look like you know what you're talking about, but I don't see the confidence, man. And then right? It's because it shows in your posture. So it's very important. Emotion connects with your posture, your physiology. It really is. You know, so that's the number one thing, to be aware of it consciously, you know, and exercise that daily. So when you find yourself in such motion, and the best way to change that, you just snap out of it and just go to
Exactly.
positive states.
Exactly.
And then you create more out of that, a lot more result that way, whatever your goal is. That's my best advice to you guys.
Yeah, that's totally
You know?
totally true.